Hey, what's going on, guys? Tom here, and I'm gonna be giving you guys a quick look at how we lit some product shots for Jake and I's new coffee company. So when you are lighting product shots, one of the biggest things you want is a big, soft light source. One of my favorites recently is the Aperture 600D Pro. It's a bright light source, it's LED, so you can dial in the intensity, you can throw a diffusion bank on it, or just play it direct. So this is a light I have. Mind you, if you're watching this and maybe you have a different light, but maybe have the ability to throw it through some diffusion, a lot of what I'm gonna say will probably apply to you. But mind you, for the sake of this breakdown, I was using the Aperture 600D. And yeah, so to kind of dive right in, when you are doing product shots, one of the things you actually will find when you do car commercials or product shots is where you put the highlight source. So when you're shooting a product, unless it by design is matte, you're gonna have reflections, right? And your reflections are gonna be light sources in the frame. And you would think even just shooting coffee beans, which we were doing in this shoot, even coffee beans to some degree have a shell that reflects highlight. So one of the first things you wanna think about is like where the highlight is. If you literally are looking at your product shot and you move your light source around, you're gonna see the highlight dance around. Like you're gonna see it, if you're lighting from over here, the highlight will probably be on the front. If you move the light source to the back, the highlight's gonna be on the back. So one of the things we were doing is these like really slow-mo shots, 240 frames of a droplet of coffee rippling on the water. And we kind of, that was one of the things we kind of like tried to move the light source. And we actually found by putting the light source on the opposite side, kind of backlighting it, the highlight actually ended up kind of, cascading on the coffee itself, which really helped backlight the actual droplet of water. So yeah, that was kind of like that, what I was just, kind of putting it into effect. Like we literally, the water is reflecting highlights. So we just moved the light to where it looked the best. So yeah, when you are basically doing product shots and macro shots, depending on like, we were doing slow-mo. So this bright light, it's an equivalent of a 1.2K HMI. So we were able to kind of crank it up to 100%. Because when you do high frame rate slow-mo, especially we were doing 240, it eats up a lot of light. Like your camera's gonna appear much darker. So yeah, we used a bright 600D, just super close off frame, and it allowed us to get some of these really stylized like slow motion shots. So something to consider too, if you are doing macro photography where you wanna have a high shutter and you're gonna catch that little glimpse, that water droplet, or if you are doing slow-mo with like a Phantom or your Red or whatever camera, you're gonna want a bright light source to get the frame rate up there to get the right exposure. Yeah, like I said, you don't really need a whole lot. Sure, if you are doing a much larger shoot, mind you, our product was no bigger than a coffee bag. So the actual surface area we were shooting on was not much bigger than like a 2 foot by 2 foot area. So for us, having an Aperture 600D or similar light source worked for us. Mind you, if your product is a car, you're obviously gonna need much bigger lights, but this principle of like a single light source, kind of burying your reflections or putting your reflections in the right spot. We did have like a Kino Select 30 if we wanted to like fill in the shadows, but for the most part, a lot of what we did was just built around one light source. And for anyone watching who maybe doesn't have any lights, something you could do is find an area in your house or your workspace that maybe is actually getting natural sunlight, maybe like kind of a countertop near a window. And you could probably do something very similar, which is literally the sun coming through. So just kind of a pro tip, just build around what you have. If you don't have a bright light source, you could kind of just use the natural light in your home if you're fortunate enough to have like sun coming through a window. One other thing we did was we have these cardboard stocks from this company called Replica Surfaces, and we have actually some pretty nice granite countertops in Jake's kitchen, but the Replica Surfaces is a really high fidelity printed image of I have like a black charcoal one. And since our product, like I said, is actually not that big, we just kind of laid that on the counter, and that was pretty much all the shots were shot around or looking into or propping it up against the Replica Surface. So the Replica Surface is basically, here, I'll hold it up for a second, is this cardstock right here. And literally it is kind of designed to be like a granite countertop. But as you see, it's literally just, kind of like a thick cardboard, if you will. But yeah, a lot of our shoot was designed around literally putting the products on this, and it kind of helped create a texture. So if you're maybe doing product shots and your countertops are maybe not quite what you would want to be in like the final result, you could check out this company. They have quite a few options. We just chose to use like the black charcoal version, but keep that in mind on your shoot. This is a great alternative for really high stylized, adding like some texture in your shots.